In this video, I want to show you how to repair broken plastic in our precious BMW. This particular car is 2012 BMW E93 M3, which is convertible. And as some of you might know, it's extremely hard to find the convertible top trim pieces. Most of them will be coming from Europe, which is gonna take forever, and then you will need to paint them. Also, if you will find used one, they're not gonna be any warranty since they've been exposed to the weather and they are fragile as one on our cars. Some people use soldering gun and plastic in combination of metal mesh, but in our case we have pretty thin pieces, as well as we want to save the paint and try not to deform the shape of the plastic trim. So we're going to be using the epoxy, some wooden stick to mix the substance, and multi-tool to trim it, or razor blade, or even file. The first step is removing the trim, and for the middle piece it's pretty simple, as we have 4 plastic tabs that hold in the springs and the piece in the frame. Mine was broken in the middle. It snapped after I start checking the squeaking noise that was coming from the portion of the roof. I find out that the one of the clamps that was holding the spring ends up being broken, and with my help the whole thing got cracked. The clamp have 2 types of locks. One is in the middle and the other one it's the tabs that you have to squeeze and then remove the clamp. And meanwhile, when I attempt to remove them, they got broken. Also, I managed to damage the other plastic components. One of them, it's a little moving part with 2 pins, and as far as I tried to remove it, it got broken, as well as the rear tags that was holding it. When I started removing the rear plastic cover, I did even more damage to the middle trim. After all, the rear plastic glued to the body of the roof, so I used the razor blade in combination of the plastic tool to remove it. That process ends up with more broken parts. After all parts was removed, I start with the middle portion, which is the simplest one to repair. Because we need to get flat straight tabs back, I use the 5-minute plastic epoxy since it dries very fast and it's perfect for gluing the end piece in place. After the glue got fully dried, which is approximately 24 hours, I start trimming and checking for the fitment. The next one was pretty simple. The moving part, which had missing pin, I found the metal rivet with the same size as the pin on the other side. Then I used a torch and melted it into the plastic. Then I add a little bit more epoxy to the reinforcement, and voila! The last and the toughest piece was the rear. Since the moving part got to lock into it and have to be able to move up and down, for that repair I used the plastic washer. I trim it to the shape that overlaid the material that was left in the trim and simply glue it. I was adding epoxy little by little and then used the file to get it to the proper shape. Then used the drill bit to make a little hole, and it did work. It did snap back and it's moving and it's not touching any other component. So now we're ready to assemble everything, and for the rear trim piece I did not use any glue as it was on a body. The end result wasn't that perfect. The part still was needed to be sanded, primered and painted, but I decided to leave it as is, and up to me it did look just fine. I hope you guys liked the video and it was helpful. If so, please consider to subscribing and checking more video about E93 roof as a maintenance, repair and adjustment, and I'll see you in the next one.